You weigh 28 grams. You live in a glass enclosure on a dresser beside a window, and your entire universe is wood shavings, a plastic wheel, a water bottle mounted to the wire wall, and a ceramic bowl that has never once been empty when you needed it to be full. You have never felt rain. You have never dug anything. You have never searched for food because food simply exists, appearing each morning with the reliability of sunrise, delivered by the large, warm creature whose scent saturates every surface in this house and whose voice fills the evenings with sounds you don't understand but have learned to associate with safety. Then, one afternoon, that creature stops coming. You don't know why. You don't know what death is, or what a human is, or that the woman who filled your bowl every morning for 3 years has just become the kind of absence that doesn't end. You know only that it is past the time when the bowl gets filled and the bowl has not been filled, and you are standing on your hind legs at the cage wall looking toward the door with the particular focused attention of an animal whose entire understanding of how the world works is quietly beginning to fail. The first day is confusing. The second is concerning. By day 5, hunger starts doing something interesting, which is reaching past the thick layer of domestication and waking up whatever existed underneath it before generations of captivity buried it. You chew everything. You investigate every corner. You test the plastic latch on the cage roof for the 100th time, and on day 7 it fails. And the opening it leaves is absurdly small, and you squeeze through it anyway because mice have always been specialists at turning impossibly small gaps into the rest of their lives. You drop onto the dresser, then the floor. Then you are standing in a house larger than anything your brain has a framework to process, overwhelmed by smells layered over years of human habitation, dust and fabric and food, and the particular chemical complexity of a place where life was lived and has recently stopped. You find a fallen bag of cereal behind a kitchen cabinet, and it is the greatest discovery in your personal history. You survive another week, then another. The house slowly changes around you across the following months, windows cracking in winter, mold spreading across walls, insects arriving in quantities that suggest the structure's slow surrender to the processes it was built to resist. And then, in the wall cavity behind the collapsed section of the kitchen baseboard, you find another mouse. Not a pet mouse, a wild mouse, smaller and leaner and faster, carrying in its body the unbroken inheritance of every generation that spent its existence avoiding owls and foxes and the particular cold of winters without a heated enclosure to wait them out in. You are technically the same species. The difference is everything that happened to each of your lineages in the centuries since they diverged. When you breed, those histories combine an offspring that carry pieces of both worlds, some bold, some cautious, some approaching unfamiliar objects with the confidence of an animal that never learned to fear much, others retreating with the hair-trigger wariness of a lineage that paid for every moment of insufficient caution. Natural selection begins sorting through these combinations immediately, because selection never waits, and mice provide it with more material per decade than most mammals provide per century. 20 years after the bowl stopped being filled, hundreds of your descendants are living in the abandoned neighborhood. The houses are failing now in earnest, roofs caving in under the weight of winters without maintenance, trees pushing through living room floors with the slow, inexorable force of roots, finding every crack in every foundation. The neighborhood is becoming something that doesn't have a name yet, because the thing it is becoming has never existed in quite this form before. A forest assembled from the ruins of a suburb, strange stone caves draped in vegetation where houses used to be. The mice thrive in it. They always thrive. But they are changing, and the changes are accumulating faster than anyone is left to observe them. The descendants carrying more mass survive winters more effectively, and so the population drifts larger across generations. Darker coats absorb heat and offer better concealment in the shadows of encroaching forest, and so the population drifts darker. The behavioral sorting is faster and more visible than the physical changes, because behavior is cheaper to modify than anatomy. The mice that freeze too long when a shadow crosses overhead get eaten. The ones that panic in open ground get eaten. The ones that investigate new food sources and remember complex spatial routes through unfamiliar terrain leave more offspring than the ones that don't. And within centuries, the descendants of a caged animal that never had to think very hard about anything are navigating a world of genuine complexity and doing it well. 100 years out, and the city is wilderness with structural fossils embedded in it. Foxes hunt through overgrown parking lots. Owls nest in the upper floors of office buildings whose windows failed decades ago. Coyotes move through former residential streets in the blue hour before dawn. Predators are now the primary force shaping what mice become, and predators are precise instruments of selection, removing every weakness consistently across every generation without exception. Stronger hind legs for explosive escape, longer whiskers for spatial awareness in dense vegetation, slightly larger brains because navigating a complex and dangerous world rewards the problem-solving capacity to stay ahead of animals that are faster and stronger and have nothing to do all day but hunt. 500 years and nobody would recognize these animals as descended from something that ran on a plastic wheel and waited to be fed. Then, the populations begin separating as the forests expand and the terrain between them diversifies, and separated populations are the raw material of new species. Each group now answering to the specific questions its specific environment asked consistently across enough generations to accumulate answers in anatomy. The mice spreading into the open grasslands growing across former agricultural land evolve speed, the way grassland animals always evolve speed, longer legs and leaner bodies and the capacity for bursts of acceleration that make the difference between escape and becoming a meal in the half-second window that actually matters. The populations moving into the expanding forest take a different path entirely, developing the forelimb strength and tail length and grip precision of animals spending significant portions of their lives above the ground, navigating branch systems with a confidence their ancestors never needed because their ancestors navigated a glass enclosure. The wetland populations along the river margins develop water resistance and swimming capacity and a dietary flexibility that lets them exploit the shellfish and aquatic insects exposed at low water in ways their inland relatives never access. 10,000 years pass and humanity is archaeology, buried layers of carbon and metal and glass beneath soil that has forgotten what the layers mean. Your descendants are everywhere, and they are many things, some small and quick and nocturnal in the way that original mouse was small and quick and nocturnal, others larger and slower and occupying ecological roles that would have belonged to completely different animals in the world that ended. One forest lineage reaches the size of a rabbit, living in family groups in the canopy of the old-growth forests expanding across the northern latitudes, cracking open woody seed pods with incisors strong enough to split material no modern rodent could approach. A mountain lineage goes the other direction entirely, developing powerful digging forelimbs and spending nearly its entire existence underground in tunnel systems of extraordinary complexity, emerging only at specific seasons for reasons that the animals themselves cannot articulate because articulation is not required for behavior shaped by selection. A coastal form becomes a specialist of the tidal margin, reading the rhythm of water withdrawal and return with a precision inherited across thousands of generations of ancestors that starved when they misread it. None of them resemble what waited beside an empty bowl in a dying house, but the story connecting them to that animal is unbroken, each generation leading to the next through the simple arithmetic of survival and reproduction across 10,000 years of different questions asked by different landscapes. Then 1,000,000 years pass and the questions have changed so many times that the answers look nothing like the starting point, except in the deepest architecture, the things that don't change because they don't need to, the basic rodent blueprint that has been solving the problem of being small and warm-blooded on a planet full of larger things for far longer than any human civilization ever lasted. In a temperate forest growing over what was once the edge of a city, a descendant of your lineage emerges from undergrowth at dawn, weighing 8 kilograms, moving through the canopy with the unhurried confidence of an animal with no immediate predator concerns at this hour. It will spend the morning cracking seed pods, the afternoon in the communal den with the family group. It has wintered with for 3 years, the evening watching from a high branch while juveniles practice the leaping that will keep them alive once they disperse. Somewhere in its genome, folded into sequences that stopped coding for anything functional so long ago that no living member of its lineage has ever expressed the trait, are the instructions for feeling safe in a small enclosed space with smooth walls, for approaching a large warm creature without fear, for associating a particular sequence of sounds with the imminent arrival of food. Those instructions connect to nothing now. They are a fossil in the code, the molecular remnant of a mouse that lived beside a window and ran on a wheel and trusted, completely and without reservation, that tomorrow would look exactly like today. The forest stretches in every direction. The juveniles are still playing. The rain is beginning softly in the canopy above, and the descendants of a pet mouse are doing what they have been doing for 1,000,000 years, which is finding a way to live in whatever world the world has become.